Hi, everybody. I wanted to talk a bit about what's been going on this week, what's been going on in the garden, and I'd love to hear more about what's going on in your garden. Welcome to Magical Gardening with Bernadette. So, I wanted to touch on this week because it's been a little bit trying for me this week. Number one, we've had and been dealing with a heat wave. Today, thank goodness, is a bit overcast and it's in the 80s. So it's much better than being in the high 90s as it has been these days. So I've been dealing with problems with my squash and the squash, the corbets, I think they're called. The squash meaning zucchini, and the gourds that are growing, I think they're a gourd, and then of course my cucumbers. Now I'm getting some really nice cucumbers, but the leaves are not doing very well in this high heat. And I put shade cloth up above, but while that'll protect it from the sun, it still doesn't protect it from 90-degree weather, which they don't seem to be boding well. But I'm still producing fruit. So if any of you have any ideas as to what to do, because the vines are looking quite sorry. I have been, I fertilize as well, and I do have them on a trellis. But if you have any ideas or thoughts or tips, please let me know what to do. And we have our first incidence of powdery mildew on the zucchini leaves. So I'm going to be going out tonight with neem oil and spray them. There's also a possibility of a tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane hitting this area, not directly. It seems to be skirting the northeast coast. I am in the Hudson Valley of New York, so I'm only an hour out of New York City. So I got to think about how to protect my plants in regards to potential severe weather. So again, if you have any tips, let me know. I'm going to show you a couple of things that have been going on. And the hardest thing for me this week is I was actually stung by a swarm of bees or wasps. I'm not sure which one they are. They're the type that make a mud nest, that type. Basically what I was doing is I was watering my plants and actually planting new seeds because I believe in succession planting. So I pulled one plant out and then I put a new one in. And I was actually trying to plant the yard-long green beans, the Chinese yard-long green beans, in place of another plant that I had pulled out. So as I was doing that, I had to move a chair out of the way, and it was twilight. So it was a little hard to see if there was anything around me at that point, but it's been so hot that when I go out to my garden, I try to make sure that the sun has gone down. And I think maybe dragging the chair across the porch scared them because all of a sudden I was literally surrounded and I was wearing my jeans, the stretchy jeans, and sandals. So I had some protection, but I did get some bites through the jeans, but I wound up with 7 bites. Now, that burned. We took care of that. I am not allergic to that, thank goodness, but I do have rheumatoid arthritis. So anytime I get any sort of small injury, small or big, it seems to affect my whole body a bit much. So I really couldn't go out and make the videos like I wanted to do, because I just kind of, the pain kind of kicks in and stuff. So I wanted to explain why I haven't been able to put up a new video since. But I am today. As you can see, it's much cooler. And I wanted to now touch on other things that I was doing. And what I have been doing is dehydrating my tomatoes. So right now I just took this out of the refrigerator. But I have been pulling out bowls and bowls and bowls of tomatoes. So right now my cherries are coming in, the grape tomatoes are coming in. Cherries and grapes. Those are the ones that I have. So I have lots and lots and lots of those. The Romas, the San Marzanos, and the slicers have not started to blush yet. I see a little bit of yellow on some of them, but the smaller tomatoes, the determinate tomatoes, are coming in like gangbusters. So it's actually more than I can possibly eat. I've been making tomato salads and cooking with them, but we're getting tons. So I did get a dehydrator a couple of months ago in anticipation for this, and it's a 5-tray dehydrator. So I think I will do another video on how to do that. And what I wound up doing was cutting them up and putting them on the dehydrator, and I make my own version of sun-dried tomatoes, which I love. I cook with sun-dried tomatoes every day. I throw them in my scrambles. I'm the keto, so I eat eggs in the morning and such. So I put them in with some garlic and onions and whatever garden veggies I get, like my green beans and the parsley and my herbs. I put that in my scrambles in the morning, and it's absolutely wonderful. There is nothing like eating stuff from your own garden. And even my herbs, like the rosemary and stuff, that's actually from last year that I dried out and have in containers, and I cook with those every day. So this is probably, over the course of the gardening season, my 3rd or 4th jar that I've done. But this is the first video that I've done. And basically what I do is I take the tomatoes, cut them in half, lay them out on my trays, and I had 4 trays, just that, and then I harvested at least another big bowl of tomatoes today, and I've already been eating those. And then I also, our hot peppers are coming, so I dried those, and I'm saving the seeds as seasoning, as hot pepper flakes, and then I cook with the dried. And I had this, I was inspired to do this by another gardening video, and one of my favorites called Roots and Refuge gardening channel. And please, I totally recommend going. I think her name is Jess, and she's really inspired me to do an awful lot. And with that, since it was only a couple of peppers, I'm putting things like the odds and ends that I'm drying in the dehydrator into a jar, so that I have soup mix and then I have stew mix. So I'm going to save all those odds and ends, and I'll do onions and I'll do garlic and that, peppers, tomatoes, all of those, the odds and ends, like maybe I only had 3 peppers, but I'll dry them anyway and I'll put them in the mason jar. So that's what I'm doing now too. So all the odds and ends are going into a jar, so that when come fall and winter, I have these jars of soup and / stock mix ready to use. So every bit gets used. So I'm really excited about it. So the next thing that I wanted to touch on is what I'm doing with my Chinese yard-long green beans. So let's get to that. So these are the Chinese yard-long green beans. So what we had to do is, you can see that twine, the jute that we have there, and you can see a little chamomile that I'm growing there, and you could see the beans. But what we had to do, because they're growing up so high, is that we had to make a makeshift trellis. And what we wound up doing, and I just want to show this to you, is we put the twine up against our cottage where we live, so we'll have like a living canopy, like we did with my husband's in-ground garden. So I'm waiting to see what is happening. We're just starting to get little flowers, so I'm assuming that the beans will be coming in very soon. That's a little bit of beeswax that's over there, and hopefully we get a good harvest this year. The next thing I wanted to show you was a nice little surprise. This is supposed to be the Mexican reds. So they're supposed to come in both yellow and red. But today I noticed that it's actually just this one actually came in just red. Last but not least, I wanted to show you just how prolific these tomatoes have been. So as we pick them, they're turning red, and it's just been wonderful. And this is all from a container garden. I hope you can see this. So that is a container. That is my blue sage, and in there I don't know if you could see it, is actually a bumblebee. Actually, let me see if I can catch all of him. Yeah, I see him. You can see the bumblebee doing his job with the tomatoes there. And all of these tomatoes that we have coming in. So what I wanted to do is ask you a favor. With the incidence of the bees, what do you think the message was in regards to that? I'd love to hear what you think that message is. I'm still working on that. And just a little tip, when you saw that lovely little bee, that was a bumblebee, so they don't frighten me. The other ones, though, they were yellow, so they kind of looked like what we used to call yellow jackets in there. So they're actually more of a wasp than they are a bee. But in regard to your tomatoes, if you want a good harvest, shake them a little bit, or touch the flowers, or shake the plant a little bit. The bee was buzzing around and landing on a flower, and she actually shakes the flower a little bit, because tomatoes are actually what is called, the tomatoes have a flower that is called a perfect flower, and what that means, it has both male and female parts to them, so they self-pollinate if you shake them. Alrighty, so that's what the bees do, because they buzz and vibrate and they shake the plant, and it actually pollinates the tomatoes. So if you don't have enough pollinators, and obviously I have tons over here, if you don't, give your tomato plants a good shake, and that will really help. Well, if you like the content today, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. Please give me any of your tips. I'm really curious as to what the message of the bees is, and what you're doing in this weather, because I am having some troubles with my squash. So if you can give me your tips, I'd love to hear it. I am no expert, alrighty, but as the years are going by, I'm really enjoying what is happening. I actually do have a couple of students. In the future, we will be doing some recipes. My sister Genevieve is a culinary graduate. She's really into self-sustainability and canning and all the other stuff. So it seems to be a Montana thing, I think. As well as other people and other students that will be participating in this channel. If you'd like to be a part of this channel, if you'd like me to do a little interview, we can post that in anything in regards to intentional gardening and what you're doing for sustainability. That would be really, really good, and any of your tips. So as I mentioned before, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you next time, and many blessings, everybody.